Hello, everybody. I am going to do a video doing a commentary for one of the world's most despised films, Caddyshack II, which is, in my view, unfortunately despised. I love it. I love this movie so much. And I figured for doing my first one of these videos ever, who knows, it could be my last. Maybe I'll hate doing this. I don't really know. I'm giving it a try. And also, I'm going to have the audio very faintly in the back, and that's only there for the purpose of being able to sync up to where I am. And just while recording this, I can kind of hear it a little bit. And yeah, this whole thing's a learning process for me. So this is my first one, trying it out and see how it goes, see if anyone cares, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, let me just start the movie so I'm not rambling and making this video too long. Luckily, this is not a long movie. So if you are actually going to watch along with this, just cue yourself up to 0 and press play. And that's what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3. Let's hope I don't have any technical difficulties. Doing this, I actually had some in setting this up. So let's hope for the best. Yeah, I saw this movie in the movie theater when it came out in 1988. I can't remember if it must have come out in the summertime. I can't imagine this being a spring or fall, and certainly not a winter movie, especially if it was getting bad press. Although they say usually the worst movies come out in January. So maybe this came out in January in 1988. I don't think so, though. I think it was in the summertime. I think they had high hopes for it, but they probably knew that this might be an issue. And, of course, this movie had a whole lot of problems going on with it. I wish maybe we can look these things up as we're going through the movie, but it was like, what is a good example of the issues this film had? Yes, and I know the script stinks and blah 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 blah. But I do know one of the things. I think it was Rodney Dangerfield who was originally interested in this part or in this movie. I think he was going to have a bigger part in this film, and then he ended up getting the script and was like, "This is a piece of shit," and turned it down, and that's how they ended up getting. What's his name? Jackie Mason to star in it. It's just one of those movies that had a lot of problems from the very beginning, almost kind of like a cursed movie in a way. And they couldn't get Bill Murray back, so that's why Dan Aykroyd is in it and kind of does a Bill Murray impersonation, which I'll be honest, that part of the film I really, really hate. Well, actually, I shouldn't say I really hate it. Yeah, his voice is just ridiculous, especially knowing that that's kind of what he was trying to do was a Bill Murray impersonation. It's just very silly. So, anyway, yeah. So I saw this movie in the theater. I remember my dad took me to see it, and I can still kind of remember. I can remember walking into the theater a little bit. I remember the outside of the theater. It was in Brockton, Massachusetts. It was not at the Westgate Mall Cinema. I think it was another theater that we went to. Excuse me. Of course, I don't remember all the theaters that were around back then anymore, but definitely wasn't Westgate. And I think it was a cheaper theater. I think it was one of those, like, the movie bombed, and then they go to the, those theaters that play second run movies for like $1 or $1.50 or something. So that's what we ended up going to see it for. And even at that, I think it was me, my dad, and there was probably just like a couple other people in there, and that was it. So what was I when this came out? Well, if it was in the summer, I was 12 and turning 13. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's weird when you think about kids. Like, if you see kids these days that are like 12 or 13, it's kind of hard to picture yourself in that way. Like, I felt like I was, kind of already a movie expert at that point. Now I was only 13 years old. I'm going to see Caddyshack II. So yeah, anyway, there we go. Jackie Mason ended up being the star, or the top billing, I guess you would say. I mean, I guess you kind of know that there's a problem with the movie when you've got Robert Stack is like second billing. That's kind of crazy. Diane Cannon, Dinah Merrill, or Dina. Maybe that's Dina. Dina Merrill. I should know more about Jonathan Silverman. He was kind of an interesting get for this. I guess get is kind of a an exaggeration. Sure, it wasn't hard to get Jonathan Silverman, but yeah, the one thing I remember him for more than anything is Brighton Beach Memoirs. Have you ever seen that movie? That's a pretty good one. It's a Neil Simon play, and then they made a movie out of it. Yeah, this has a crazy cast. Randy Quaid is really funny in this. He's nuts now. Chevy Chase has a special appearance, even though he's in quite a lot of the movie. He hates this movie with a passion, from what I've heard. Dan Aykroyd, I would say, is more of a special appearance. But, yeah, Captain Tom Everett. Marsha Warfield from, what was that show? Night Court. She was in that. She was like the bailiff or something like that. She's not in it very much, but I kind of liked her appearance in this. So I know they filmed this down in Florida somewhere, I think on the west coast of Florida. If I have that right, I probably don't. I'm probably saying complete and utter nonsense for this. Y'all can fact check me. But that's one of the things I like about these commentaries is that it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be spot on. You don't have to have all your facts correct. That's kind of I feel like you kind of listen to or watch commentaries more for the personalities of whoever is presenting them more than, what they're actually saying, at least factually. So if somebody gets something wrong, who cares? Allan Arkush, an Allan Arkush movie. I think he was like a bigger TV director than anything. Maybe we can look up some facts as we're watching this. There she is, China Phillips. I wonder how many movies she was in. But she was in what's that band? Wilson Phillips. It's China Phillips. God, look at that sweater. It is very, very 80s. How did I not notice that before? It's hard to miss. Oh, and these gophers. There was a whole story with these gophers, and having them talk, I think, was controversial. I think everyone just got really irritated. Look at those little pretzels. That's funny. Yeah, I think... Oh, God, and he's got a Cosby sweater on there. Good Lord, with all that golfing going on. That is atrocious. Can you imagine you would wear sweaters like that back in the day and, like, think you're the shit? Like, yeah, man, I'm cool. This looks really cool on me. And you're all jealous because I'm not. Or you're not wearing one of these. It's just... and it was so commonplace back then. At least on TVs and movies you would see. I don't know if you ever saw people in person. At least not where I lived. You didn't see people wearing shirts like, or sweaters like that. Jesus. Yeah, it's just laughable now. I wonder what happened to this girl. I don't really know. Dignified and elegant. See, I think a lot of the trouble with this movie may have come down to Jackie Mason himself. And I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's just his general persona, personality. He was kind of big in the 80s. In some ways. I think he was probably kind of more like... Maybe had more of a regional appeal. You know, like people kind of got him more. They're more exposed. It's like in New York where, like, you know, you get the Italian, you know, the like mob kind of guys that you see in movies and stuff. Like, you would be exposed to people like that there. I think it was kind of the same with Jackie Mason, kind of certain personality you can only like come across in certain areas of the country. So maybe some people didn't really kind of get him and found him irritating, and certainly that accent. But I love him. I think he's great. I mean, look at that suit. It's insane. And there's something about his face. He almost looks like he has... I think he kind of looks like he's had a lot of plastic surgery. Maybe he has, and it's actually good. But to me, it looks like he's had plastic surgery, but he actually hasn't, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I have seen this movie so many times. It's probably scary how many times I've seen it, considering how much people really do dislike this movie. I just wonder if people dislike it because it was so... I can understand the argument that it's subpar compared to the original one. And I do like the original one. It is funny, but it's not the greatest movie. It's a very quiet film, strangely, and it's a little slow. This one was a little bit more... It was definitely cheesier. It's almost like a TV movie that was like made for kids or something in some ways. But at the same time, I feel like it was brighter. It's more fast moving. I find it funnier, I think. But yeah, it certainly has its faults. No question about that. Now this part wasn't filmed in Florida. Maybe it was just the golf stuff that was filmed in Florida, because you can kind of clearly see in the background there, it's like all the mountains and stuff. It looks like California. Yeah. I don't know. I think this is one of those kind of films that they figured that they would just put a lot of people in and the magic would just happen from that. And that's, for most people, that's not how it worked out. and it's hard to create magic when your top billing is Robert Stack and Jackie Mason and Marsha Warfield, who's only in it for like a couple minutes. Yeah, so it was a disappointment for some, but I just went into it. I think I've always had a thing for sequels because I find sequels so, and in many ways they're quite brave, because you got to be brave to make a sequel to Caddyshack, a movie that is so loved by people. You know, it's kind of considered a classic nowadays, I would think, and so it's almost like doing a sequel to like Psycho 2. That is an excellent example, and I think actually people liked it back then and said, hey, this actually isn't that bad. It's pretty good. It's kind of scary. And I think now people have reevaluated and like it even more than they did. And that's where it worked. You know, they were brave enough to make a sequel to Psycho 2. I mean, in some ways you can say it's not brave because it's like, oh, you're already taking an idea and just kind of twisting a little bit, making a new movie out of it. I understand that. But it's also brave to do it because either it's going to work on some level or it's going to be a complete disaster. And I think most people would say Caddyshack 2 is a complete disaster. I'm of the opposite thinking with that. I still like this movie. And again, I have seen it so many times. I have an old friend who I didn't even find out until later that she was also a huge fan of this movie and like knew the lines almost as, or probably better than I did. And it was shocking to me because how many people in the world are Caddyshack 2 fans? I don't think there's a ton of them. And so I had someone in my life who was also a fan, and we kind of bonded over that, which is really cool. I don't know what her opinion was on the first Caddyshack, though. I don't think we ever talked about it. Isn't that funny? And then the license plate says Illinois. I never noticed that before. So this is supposed to take place in Illinois. Filmed in Florida for sure. And it kind of looks like they filmed some of it in California, I think. That's crazy. Yep, there's China Phillips again. So her name is Muffy. She's got the big M on her neck, which is hilarious. Yes, a scrumptious junk bond salesman. I think China Phillips actually did a pretty good job of playing a real snooty rich kid. It's not your real father, is he? Yeah, like what? Like she met him for 1 second. She saw a suit and just decides, yep, this guy is awful and doesn't belong here. It's so crazy. Where's the humor in that? I don't really know. I guess it creates the drama. I just love Jackie Mason's faces. I thought he did a good job in this movie. The way that I love this scene because the way he's looking at him, like the guy from Bushwood there is looking at him like, okay, this is a scumbag and he shouldn't be here. But Jackie Mason is playing it the exact same way back to him, looking him up and down like, what is this stiff all about? It's just a smart way of taking it instead of like, playing the victim. And it's kind of funny that Chevy Chase hates this movie, and most people say he called this role in and blah, 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 blah. Again, it works for me. There's something about his... I don't know what it is. I just thought he still did a good job in this one, like he did in the first one. Like, can you imagine if this movie had been made without I love the way Chevy's face as he walks away. It's so funny. Like, oh, all right, I've got it done. And but yeah, imagine what this movie would be like without Chevy Chase or without Dan Aykroyd. Even if Aykroyd's character, Captain Tom Everett, is insanely annoying to listen to. Like, where would this be? I mean, this movie had to have some kind of credibility, on the poster with people. I mean, this movie really would have bombed if they didn't even have those two in it. I don't think Robert Stack is kind of pulling in the crowds. And not Randy Quaid, that's for sure. Lose the accent. God, the anti-Semitism that was going on. Not that the movie is anti-Semitic, but they were showing how anti-Semitic people are with his last name, Hartunian. He's got I guess that's a Jewish last name. I've never heard that name before. Maybe it's kind of common. Paul Bartel. What is his wife's name? Paul Bartel, and I think they've both passed away now. Or at least he has. I can't remember. They kind of made like indie movies in the 80s, kind of weird ones. Black comedy, off-kilter kind of things. But both him and his wife also were in, which I liked a lot, Chopping Mall. Oh my God, I love that movie. It's like the quintessential... Well, not quintessential kind of 80s movie, but the 80s vibe in that is so strong, and it's It's so it just captures the 80s really well, which I like. I've done that so many times in my life, copying that scene, and of course nobody knows what the heck it is. When he looks at his watch, he's like, I got a thing. There's no watch on. Brilliant. That always cracked me up. There's Diane Cannon. I'm actually going to look her up because I feel like she does have a history. Diane Cannon. But I can't remember what it is right now. So let's look it up. Diane Cannon. Oh, she's got 3 Academy Award nominations. See, they should have put that on the poster, don't you think? Could have been like starring Academy Award nominated Diane Cannon. Let's see, what else was she in? Before this, Honeysuckle Rose. I kind of remember that one. Heaven Can Wait. Oh, right. Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. That's kind of the one I was thinking of. I've never actually seen that movie yet, but I am interested in seeing it. Diane Cannon. I'm sure now she says Caddyshack 2 is like, you know, her best role ever. She's still, oh wow, she's 84 now. She's from Tacoma. I'm sure he had his reasons. There's something too, I guess Robert Stack didn't really kind of put on a voice so much with Unsolved Mysteries, you know? I mean, he played it up a little bit, but he's really got that. He's got that interesting voice. It's just funny to hear that Unsolved Mysteries voice in this movie. Because this was in the height of that show. I think that started in like 87, maybe 86, 87. This came out in 88. So yeah. Yeah, he was right in the middle of it with this. Maybe they thought they were catching that Robert Stack wave. Good Lord, in his shoes. Here it is. I love those little sounds in the back. This scene, I remember. Yeah, this scene, I kind of remember that those laser effects. I remember these very simple little laser effects that you see in this. But at the time that this came out, I thought it looked really awesome. I mean, it still looks fine now. Certainly looks dated, but it doesn't, you can tell how it would have looked good back then. But it's so funny because when you watch the credits to this, it says, you know, they have the credit for it, and it's done by Industrial Light and Magic. So it's like special effects by Industrial Light and Magic, Marin County, California. That just makes me laugh because it's almost like they're on the level of Star Wars or something. I don't think it says Lucasfilm. Maybe it does. A division. Actually, I guess it probably would, right? Because Industrial Light and Magic, a division of Lucasfilm. With that, man, I can imagine anything. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I think everybody, all the bad people, you know, all the country club people did a good job of, in a very cartoonish way, I think they did a good job of kind of being the bad guy or the evil snobs, the rich snobs, kind of the stereotypical kind of snob. It's cartoonish, but I think it works for this. That's the thing with Caddyshack 2. I think the whole thing is, I think the first one was certainly more steeped in a little bit more realism. In a way, it felt more real. This one feels more cartoonish. Maybe that's why I like it. I don't really know, but Randy Quaid. Even the glasses he's... This whole thing is great. Look at that guy on the left. Which one of you is Chandler Young's son? This is great. That bow tie is like a Tucker Carlson like piece of shit. Those big round glasses. He's like, ooh, I like this. That's so great. And that's another thing I kind of like about this movie is that it's kind of like oh, this is such a good scene. Beat down your door with a fucking baseball bat. Yeah, those glasses just accentuate how nuts he is. Cram him up your tight ass. He also played in 1988, if you've seen Moving with Richard Pryor. Who else is in that? Dana Carvey was in it. So you got Randy Quaid, Dana Carvey, Richard Pryor's the lead. That's a fun one, but that came out this year, and his character was kind of loopy in that one too. Excuse me. So he had a couple interesting roles this year. Always playing that crackpot. Turns out he's kind of that crackpot that he played in all the movies. So that's cool. What was I saying earlier? I was saying something about his glasses moving. Oh, one of the things I liked about this movie is they kind of, they're on the side, at least, I mean, I guess it's kind of a typical plot, you know, where, you know, something that is used by the common person, common man, you know, where they showed that like Jackie Mason, he wants to build those apartments for low income housing for people so they can have a home. And these people, the rich snobs, are like, no, we want to keep this, like, there's remnants of this house. There's just a few remnants left. And they want to keep it there for historical reasons, which I get. But I mean, in this scenario, there's hardly anything there, so it's kind of pointless. But Jackie Mason is a rich guy who's on the side of the little guy because he doesn't forget where he comes from, and he kind of makes it his thing to help people who are not necessarily disadvantaged, but they're not as advantaged clearly as he is. And I thought that was it's certainly a common trope, I guess, where it's like in Breakin' 2, another one of my favorites, where they're going to build they have a community center and they're going to tear it down and put up a shopping mall or something. And, you know, they want to keep it up. It kind of reverses the scenario there, but the theme is the same, you know, where they want to keep that community center up because it's something for people who can't just like buy a community center all their own. So that's the whole dynamic of that movie, and it's kind of the same thing here. So I guess it's kind of dog food. Why does it say dog food on there? I never noticed that. So it's not terribly original, thrilling, or exciting. But I like that. I thought it added something to this movie that Jackie Mason is just, he's like a blue collar guy, just happens to have a lot of money. And I like that take. I thought that was good. Dun, 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 dun. I think that's the charm of Jackie Mason. He's such an he's an unconventional comedian. He's an unconventional leading man. Hear the music of doom. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? Yeah, it's kind of scary how I know so many beats of this movie. This is great. It's so good. Oh, and he's got another killer suit here. All right, they still got the Illinois license plate Big Shot, so at least that's consistent. I'm going to look up that actress now. Let's see what she is from. So let's see, Caddyshack II. Jessica Lundy. She's 55 now. Oh wow, her film debut was Bright Lights Big City, which came out earlier in the same year. She was in Northern Exposure for a few episodes. Yeah, she's done some TV work. She's been in... She's still working? Yeah, she's still working. Oh, that's crazy. It does look like mostly TV stuff, but like this year she's in a sitcom called Be Positive. She was in one episode there. Now I want to look her up and see if I recognize. Yep. Yeah, she looks kind of the same, pretty much. Oh, she got an Emmy, a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Performer in a Children's or Preschool Children's Series. Here's Paul again. Oh, right. I was going to look up and see when Caddyshack II came out. When was that? I'm going to guess July, but I won't be surprised by August of 88. Yep, July 22nd, 1988. A budget of $20 million to make this, and it only made 11.8. Handicapped by a family-friendly PG rating, even the talents of Caddyshack 2's all-star comic cast can't save it from lazy, laughless script and uninspired direction. Rita Kempley, The Washington Post, wrote, Caddyshack 2, a feeble follow-up to the 1980 Laugh Riot, is lamer than a duck with bunions and dumber than grubs. It's patronizing, clumsily manipulative, and top banana, Jackie Mason is upstaged by the gopher puppet. Michael Wilmington of the LA Times said the film was so bad it makes Caddyshack 1 look like Godfather 2. film received 4 Golden Raspberry Award nominations, and it won 2. It was nominated for Worst Picture and Worst Actor, Jackie Mason. But it won for Worst Supporting Actor, Dan Aykroyd, and Worst Original Song, Jack Fresh. It also won the Worst Picture at the 1988 Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. Good Lord, does that still happen? Okay. So that started in 1978 and then it ended in 2006. So Caddyshack 2 is up against Cocktail, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, and The Telephone. Yep, that's what it is. The Telephone is that. Oh, wow. Rip Torn directed that. So Whoopi Goldberg was in it. John Hurd, Elliot Gould. Huh. Anyway, so back to Caddyshack 2. As in the first film, an animatronic gopher was used in Caddyshack 2. This time, instead of tittering, the gopher was able to speak. His voice was provided by Frank Welker. Because of Bill Murray's involvement in the creation of the gopher for the first film, Murray sued producers of the film during post-production. Murray and the producers settled out of court for an undisclosed sum. You know, I love Bill Murray and all, but that's a little weird. I mean, obviously, I don't know the details of all that, but he didn't want to be in the movie. Even to the extent of wanting to have his voice, being as a gopher, he wouldn't even do that. So obviously, if they want to have the gopher speak, they got to have someone else do it, and then he sues them for it, and then he gets money out of it. I don't know. That's shady to me. What do I know? Harold Ramis wrote this and he called it terrible. I'm just reading this stuff off of Wikipedia, so you can read some stuff on there if you want. But it says Ramis said in 1999, with Caddyshack 2, the studio begged me. They said, "Hey, we've got a great idea. The shack is back." And I said, "No, I don't think so." They said that Rodney really wanted to do it and we could build it around Rodney. Rodney said, "Come on, do it." And then the classic argument came up, which says that if you don't do it, someone will. Kind of like that Bill Murray thing. And it will be really bad. So I worked on a script with my partner, Peter Torkvey, consulting with Rodney all the time. Then Rodney got into a fight with the studio and backed out. We had some success with Back to School, which I produced and wrote, and we were working with the same director, Alan Metter. Alan Metter, what did he direct? Did he do Moving? I'm going to look that up right now. Let's see. Yeah, he did. He directed Moving with Randy Quaid. It's funny how this stuff comes together. When Rodney pulled out, I pulled out, and then they fired Alan and got Allan Arkush. I got a call from John Peters, the producer, saying, "Come with us to New York. We're going to see Jackie Mason." I said, "Oh, don't do this. Why don't we let it die?" And he said, "Nope, it'll be great." But I didn't go, and they got other writers to finish it. I tried to take my name off of that one, but they said if I took my name off, it would come out in the trades and I would hurt the film. Ramis was later quoted as saying that Dangerfield was the only one who expressed any interest in doing a sequel in the first place. Ted Knight had died 2 years earlier. Bill Murray wasn't interested. And he said Chevy Chase had already moved on, although Chase did eventually agree to appear. Dangerfield, after insisting on a number of script rewrites, said he backed out of the film because it felt it would not be successful. Man, oh man. Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, when things are meant to be and when they're not meant to be. And this one, at least in terms of how it was going to be accepted by the public, there were all these warning signs, very clear, blatant warning signs that this is probably not going to end well. But they did it anyway. But hey, man, I liked it. Chandler? See, even that seems funny. He says 5'10", and she has that look in her face like, I'm really only worth $10 more to keep me away from that monster. Well. Oh, that's great. I love it. Yeah, Jonathan Silverman was in Brighton Beach Memoirs. I'm going to look him up too because I'm trying to remember what he really kind of came from. Maybe it was Broadway in general. Oh, right. Weekend at Bernie's. Oh, that was later. Okay, so Caddyshack. So he did Brighton Beach Memoirs, then he did Caddyshack II. And the next year he had Weekend at Bernie's and a few other. Where is he these days? Let's see. Wow, he's still doing stuff. He was in a TV show called Station 19 last year. This year he has a show called Good Girls. Maybe he's just in an episode or something. Probably just doing random work. Yeah, but he was one of these guys. He seemed like he had like it kind of seemed like he had somewhat of a big future. Maybe his name was kind of up there for a little while. Then it dropped off. But he's been working ever since. Not a big star or anything, but I kept working, so that's good. He was in Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Give Me a Break. That's what I was thinking. He was on there from 84 to 86 on 16 episodes. Yep, that's what I was thinking of. Jonathan Silverman. Brighton Beach Memoirs. I need to watch that again. And I remember really liking that as... yeah, there he is. Jonathan Silverman. Huh. Hey, he looks pretty much the same too. Everyone's aging well from the Caddyshack II. I guess it was nowhere but up, right? From the low depths of Caddyshack II. Which is bullshit. I like this movie. See, and this is more of that, like you get to see these rich people doing, you know, work of the common man, getting all their fancy clothes dirty. It's great. There's something kind of satisfying, you know, but it's very harmless. And again, cartoonish. Like this scene. Like this is cartoonish because what's in that bag? There's nothing. There's probably a few grains of that shit in there, and it's mostly like styrofoam popcorn or something in that bag. Or nothing. There's hardly anything left because it all came out. Oy, oy, oy. I don't know if that's actually her, but if it is, those pieces of that lumber is not very. That is definitely fake lumber. That's pretty heavy, what she's got on her frail shoulders there. firewood. So he cut firewood up at his like 5th house up on a lake. So he cut the firewood. Probably took him half an hour. And then he just goes and relaxes in front of this enormous fireplace. And don't tell me about hard work. Artunian Construction Company. Look at that. On members only in quotes. Why is that in quotes? Don't you hate unnecessary quotes? It drives me insane. Members only. That's not a quote. That's a statement. You're not quoting someone else. This scene's so funny. Says the boob. Ooh. I'm sorry, how is that not funny? I don't get it. I mean, I know, I get it. If you laugh in a movie once or twice, that doesn't make it a good movie. I understand that. There's multiple scenes of hilarity in this for me, which is why I like it. But you can't say this movie is fucking terrible, like it's the worst thing ever. There's got to be a couple scenes in here that you laugh. That should stop you from saying it's like one of the worst movies ever made. If it's one of the worst movies ever made, you wouldn't even laugh. You'd just be staring at this movie dead-eyed. Let me ask you this. Do I own it? Yeah, look at that basketball. It's like brand new. Never been used. Where's that painting now? I wonder if that painting is available in like, you have those like movie memorabilia sites where there's like set pieces and things. I think there's, you can buy that stuff, which is kind of cool. I don't think that's going to be available though, but if it was, and it was a reasonable price, I think I might get it. Actually, let's look up and see while we're enjoying this scene. And I love the set design in his house. Like, his house is pretty awesome. It's just fun. It's not like, yeah, it's like a big, rich mansion kind of in its design, but he kind of had fun with it, which I think is cool. Instead of it being super stuffy and dull and boring. He plays golf in his house. He drives around in a golf cart inside the house. That is how I would be. Oh, what was I going to look up? Movie memorabilia. Well, it looks like they have movie memorabilia from the original. The original Caddyshack. I don't even know if this is memorabilia. Well, this is, yeah, this isn't like set stuff. It's like a signed movie script, like stuff like that. That's kind of cool. Wow, they had a pop. This Funko things. They had one for Ty Webb. From Caddyshack, that's cool. If they had done one for Caddyshack 2, I would have purchased it. Yeah. Man, oh man. I think Dan Aykroyd's going to be coming up pretty soon. Sure, why not? That's got to be ad-lib, right? Or did he just come up with that? That's funny. Man, I like it. I do own the place. The little guy gets the big guy. That's what we all love. That's what we like to see. Let's look up some more. Caddyshack II trivia. That is pretty cool that Kenny Loggins came back and did the song for this one, Nobody's Fool. And he did the song I'm All Right, which was for the first one. So they were able to get him to come back. So who did they get to come back? Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase and Kenny Loggins. And I guess Harold Ramis, technically. Nouveau Rich. That's funny. Yeah, let's see. And the director, Allan Arkush, we were talking about that earlier. It's a collaborator of Joe Dante. So he's 72 now. So after Caddyshack 2, he took about 6 years off, and then he did Shake, Rattle, and Rock. And he did a movie called Young at Heart, Elvis Meets Nixon, The Temptations, and then Prince Charming. He's still working as well, and he just does mostly television stuff, which makes sense. So before Caddyshack 2, he'd done Fame, Twilight Zone, the 86 version, LA Law, St. Elsewhere, Moonlighting. Yeah, so I guess that kind of makes sense. That's why you get a bit of a a television kind of feel to this. Jackie's Wacky Golf. And maybe that's part of the problem too. I honestly don't I can see why people don't like this movie for a million different reasons, but it works for me. Like, I can see the elements in this movie that people really dislike. I can see me disliking it for the same reasons in like another film. But for some reason it works here. And it's probably the cast. It's probably like Randy Quaid that I like. And I like Jackie Mason, which I think is the biggest barrier, I think. Because it's clear that Mason is supposed to be, I mean, they made it very clear. Like, this is supposed to be Dangerfield, but he ended up not doing it. So they get someone, I don't know, kind of flashy like him. And that just doesn't work for a lot of people. I mean, they don't like the idea that they had a replacement, and then they replaced him with someone that I think a lot of people kind of found they didn't either get, or they found him a bit annoying. So that was the biggest obstacle for people liking this. But I think the original Caddyshack had a bit of an edge to it. This one doesn't really. Like the original a Caddyshack came out in what, 1980? And I think it was it is a quiet film overall, and I think it really did well for its time. You know, I think it really connected with people then and made more sense. I mean, people still love it now. Totally, I understand that. Um, but I think it was I think it did well. I think the original one did well because it was a little bit more funny enough. It was a little bit more highbrow than some other comedies of the day, perhaps. Like Airplane came out in 1980, which is completely silly. And Caddyshack is silly too, but there's something a little bit more to it. It's just not, I mean, it's not slapstick. It has slapstick elements, I guess, a little bit. And that's where Caddyshack 2 kind of went. They went to like the, like, look at this golf course. Because they have like dancers and stuff. I mean, this is ridiculous. I like it. Oh, there's that song. Do you hear it in the background, kind of? Jack Fresh. Worst song of the year at the 88 Razzies. Cool Elvis shirt, dude. Oh, wait, this isn't Jack Fresh. Sorry, hold on. Jack Fresh comes on after, I think. This isn't hard. I had the soundtrack, by the way, on cassette. I'm wondering if I still have it on cassette. I have it in some form. But there were some songs on there that, yeah, I really liked. Actually. Cheesy 80s songs. There's a lot of nostalgia going on there, I guess, more than anything. Like that song that played when Jonathan Silverman and Jessica Lundy were talking outside that party. I actually like that song that plays in the background. I don't know who sings it, but it's called Heart of Glass. It's terrible. It's cheesy, but I love it. And I probably only like it because it reminds me of Caddyshack 2. So if like that song just randomly pops in my head, which it does. That's interesting. Did he just say Miffy instead of Muffy? I'm gonna have to rewind that. I think he said her name wrong. Huh. Either I misheard that or I've never noticed it before. See, this is another satisfying scene. There was definitely a lot of, in the 80s, there was a lot of satisfaction for people to see rich people getting fucked over one way or another. Like what just happened to him because, you know, the economy, and people say the economy was good, but it's kind of like today where it's like the economy is like really good for rich people, but middle class and especially the poor are just completely getting fucked over. So these movies and stuff like this was, yeah, it was gratifying. You know, where you can see them slide down a water slide without any water. That's pretty damn fun. See, I get why, yeah. This is funny, but then it's also elaborate. Like, boom, all those people. I mean, that is ridiculous. These cutouts of people pop up to simulate a hockey game. It's so over the top, and that's what I like about it. It's weird how things that we like in some places we don't like in others. God, his license plate said Club President on it. Did you see that? Oh boy. Captain Tom Everett, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah, there's a few elements in this scene that I can see what turns people off. And clearly it's the voice. I can't stand the voice either. Order something. It's it's so bad. But then the food that he makes here, oh. Maybe it doesn't look as gross as it did to me when I was younger. But still, it's like, don't have it. I'm not laughing because it's funny in this part. I'm laughing because it's so bad. Oh my God, he's got a thing of Twinkies there. Never noticed that before. Ugh. Peppers, eggs. Like, like he's actually going to eat that? How would you even eat that? It's just one big sloppy mess. Has happened. Ugh. Yeah, the fact that they just did that with that little zapping thing, it's so cartoonish. It's almost like the writers or creators, either they just weren't that funny of people, or they knew, like, okay, we're not going to get Rodney Dangerfield. He's out. We got Jackie Mason. And maybe Mason only liked doing certain kinds of material. That would make sense. But it almost seemed like they kind of knew this movie wasn't going to prove to be all that popular. And so what do you do in that case? You try and broaden your appeal. And the way to do that is to bring in kids, like teenagers that would be able to buy tickets and see it. So then maybe you have a chance of making your money back. And so, you get a PG rating versus R, which is what Caddyshack was. This one is PG. And that includes some cheesy, cartoonish kind of jokes and humor. That's kind of my theory as to what they probably did here, but it's hard to tell. I really wish they had made... It's funny, you always see movies like, I don't know, Star Wars. You can get the 4K Blu-ray and you get the 6-hour making of. It's like a 6-hour making for each of the films, just craziness. Which is cool, but I always want to see the making of these movies, the ones that were done. He's got a lot of Mr. Bubble there. Mad Magazine. He reads Mad Magazine. That's great. He really looks like an old lady there in that. See, this movie's damn funny. But it's these kind of films that I want to see the making of. Not that there's not a whole lot to tell. It's pretty straightforward, other than those crazy special effects from Industrial Light and Magic, a division of Lucasfilm in Marin County, California. But I would love to hear the stories of the people who work on films like this, who really wanted to make a film that would prove popular with people. Like, they put their heart and soul into it. Maybe they didn't put their heart and soul into this one. That might be, that certainly might be the case here. And it kind of seems like there's a chance it is. But I think most people, obviously, they would want it to be successful so they can make money and, continue their careers and all that. And I would just love to hear from those people, about what it was like making this, what their hopes for it was, their vision for it. And then how it turned out, and then what the reaction was when it came out and how it affected them. Those are the stories that I want to hear. And that ties in with what I was saying earlier, especially with especially with sequels, because to me they are brave in a sense to even attempt, especially with movies that, like, where the originals are so popular and you're trying to extend it. It's like, how do you do this? And you come up with an idea and you're like, let's go for it. Let's try it and see what happens. Because especially most of the times that doesn't work out. It's pretty rare. I mean, I don't like the Godfather movies, really. They're not my bag. But I understand why people like them. I'm just not into mob stuff and all that. But I think Godfather 2 was I guess some people say it's better than the first one. So it worked out in that case. Not so much with Godfather 3, I guess. But in most instances, like straightforward sequels, they just don't work out. They might make money, they might make their money back, but they're very rarely hits like the originals are. So you're already up against that. So that's why it is, to me, quite brave to make these, because your odds of it being as successful or more successful are not as good, especially if there's not much of a story to tell. Like in Caddyshack, the story was told. This one, like, they really had to go out of their way to figure out a way to make a part 2, right? This isn't a continuing story. This is just like 8 years later, and here's what's going on at Bushwood now. So it's completely unnecessary, basically. But they went for it, and yeah, it's kind of this one ended up being a mess to most people, and those are the kind of stories that I want to hear. Because really, you never see that. You never even, like, I mean, you do sometimes. Especially nowadays, there's a lot of crap films that come out on Blu-ray and DVD, and they have, films like you haven't heard of since you saw sitting on the shelf at the video store in like 85 or something. And now, like, Blu-rays of those are coming out with making of and commentaries and all that, which is awesome. That's exactly what I want, right? But I want it for movies like this. Big studio movies. Like, I feel like if Crown International Pictures had done Caddyshack 2, there'd probably be a fucking 4-disc Blu-ray with like an 8-hour making of, and we know everything. But because this is a Warner Brothers production, it's like it's not worth it for Warner Brothers to do anything with it, and blah blah blah. Like, there's not even a Blu-ray for Caddyshack 2 as far as I know. It is on DVD. But yeah, those are the kind of bombs that I want to hear about. Because ultimately, I think all filmmakers are emotionally passionate people about the projects that they work on. That's why they're doing them, for the most part. So it would be great to hear these stories too. Another example for me is, I know I like a lot of weird sequels. I mean, there's a lot of sequels I hate too. I'm not that crazy, but I do like Poltergeist 3. I think that's a fantastic movie. But there's not a lot. Scream Factory did put out a release of that, and there is a making of on there, which I was very thankful for. But I thought I felt like it should have been more in depth. Like, I want to hear from everybody that was on the cast and crew. Like what it's like to put all your heart and soul into a big project like that. A lot of money. And for it not to come out the way you wanted to, or it has a bad reaction, and it's just interesting to me. There's Captain Tom Everett. Dan Aykroyd is still into his... I don't think he's like a conspiracy guy. He could be, but he's definitely into aliens and paranormal and all that kind of stuff. He's been into that, I guess, since he was a kid, because his parents were super into that. So now he is as well. He might even have like a radio show or podcast or something where he talks about all that stuff, because he's really into it, which is cool. And I guess that was kind of the inspiration for Ghostbusters. And it shows, you know, you could tell that's a passion project that really worked. You and this is great. I guess you could kind of say even Chevy Chase is a good actor, because if he hates this movie and thought it was shitty and just kind of did it for the money, I mean, maybe his performance is kind of lazy, but it was lazy in the first one too, don't you think? He's just kind of like this guy who has lots of money and just takes his day very slowly and quietly. He did that in the first one. He's doing that here. And so factoring that in, I can't really, actually, I shouldn't say that. I should say, I don't think he's doing you can't tell that he's having a bad time, basically. Like, he seems like he's doing just as good a job as he did on the first one. Maybe I'm just biased. Maybe I just like Chevy Chase, which is true. I know he has a reputation of being a dickhead at times, or a lot of the times, or he has an ego. I don't know what his deal is, but man, I find him funny. Not funny. There's a lot of 80s movies. You know, he was kind of like, I mean, he started in the 70s, you know, with SNL, and then he did Foul Play and Seems Like Old Times. He did both of those with Goldie Hawn. Modern Problems. He definitely had some bad ones. He had Modern Problems. He had Under the Rainbow. Did you ever see that? Under the Rainbow? The one where he... that's the one where he... I don't remember the exact plot, but it takes place at a hotel during the filming of The Wizard of Oz, and it's filled with a lot of little people, and they're all staying at the same hotel, and chaos ensues. Carrie Fisher's in that one, too. That's a kind of movie that could have gone well, but it just wasn't funny. There wasn't... I don't even think it was bad necessarily. It just didn't really have anything going for it. Which is kind of sad, because it is a pretty good premise. I don't remember what his character was in that. Was he like an investigator? Like he worked for the FBI or something, and he just happened to be at that hotel as well? Something like that. No. Be the ball. Jackie's looking at it with one eye open, one eye closed. I don't know. Maybe I just find Jackie Mason funny. Maybe that's the only reason I like this. I don't know. Na. Be the ball. You almost wonder if this scene right here is actually just a behind the scenes shot, and it's Chevy Chase trying to tell him how to do it for the next take. And they just use the scene. There's an entertaining way of looking at this, right? What does this hat say? Poker club. Can't tell what the first word is, though. I wish I could... This is funny, too. This weird contraption that they, like, had to design and make just for this ridiculous scene. Look at that thing. They had to think that up, design it, build it. I mean, how much did that thing cost right there? I would say maybe $10,000 or something. It's crazy. Mrs. Esterhaus. Oh, God, that voice. I don't know why I ended up being okay with being okay with his voice. Because I really didn't like it. I didn't really mind his character per se, but his voice was just so grating and annoying and something gross about it. And I still don't like it, but I don't mind it. I can just watch this now and just be like, okay, fine, whatever. Maybe I've just seen it so many times that it's just whatever at this point. Yeah, I wonder what my dad thought of this movie. I don't remember what his... I don't even remember if he liked the original one. We probably just went to see this one because I really wanted to. I've always had a weird fascination with sequels, and I think I've kind of discussed that already. Just saying how I find it to be kind of brave to take it on, because more than likely it's not going to end well, or it's not going to end the way you want it to. So getting involved in it, and that's the thing. A lot of times sequels are just, the studio just saying, make another one so we can make some more money, because they just feel like, it's going to bring in just as much cash as it did the first time. Nowadays, that might be kind of true because sequels are a bit different these days. I think like you don't get like Caddyshack II type movies. Like sequels now are like Star Wars 9 or Hunger Games 6, and they're big action adventure movies that are a proven draw. Like Caddyshack was a movie that they just made, and it did well. It wasn't expected to be a huge franchise. They didn't plan on it. They just made it, and it did well. And instead of just saying, okay, great, we had a winner there, they just think we got to continue this on. It's kind of a weird mindset, but that's what it is with the big studios. It's all about money at the end of the day with them. And I understand that it's like that at any studio, but it seems like the bigger studios, that's their first goal. Is it going to make a lot of money? If it is, or we feel the odds are better than none, or better than 50-50, I guess, then let's go for it and try it. If not, then, they do have wings where they make smaller films that they like to call independent, like Fox Searchlight, like stuff like that. This was his final scene in the movie, I believe, Chevy Chase. See, isn't it weird that his what do you call it? His role in this is a special appearance by Chevy Chase. And as you've seen, he did it again with the watch. He's in the whole movie. Dan Aykroyd, I can kind of understand why it's more of a special appearance. He's in a few scenes, but it's only within the last half hour, basically. But Chevy Chase is kind of in it from the beginning. But why is his a special appearance while Marsha Warfield is in it for 2 or 3 scenes, and one of those scenes she's just kind of in the background, and she's like 3rd or 4th billing? I don't know how that kind of stuff works. It's weird. Maybe that's why Chevy Chase hates it. He's like, why was I given a special appearance? I know that's in his contract, but why didn't his contract pay him more, since he was in this a lot more than somebody like Marsha Warfield? It's very strange. But that's the thing. That's what I want to know. I want to know, in the making of Caddyshack II, how that came about. See, that's more fascinating to me than, well, how did they make that special effect? in Star Wars? How did that? Well, you know how it is. You don't know technically, but you know that it's something they did in CGI and they did it on a computer. Da 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 da. Okay, you get it. Technology changes, and we get to see cooler and cooler things in different movies. But it's those other little things like the special appearance credits. What is that all about? How'd that come about? I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dork or a nerd or something, but I find that more fascinating than anything. These damn gophers. And do they even really talk? I mean, I guess he does. Uh-oh. Like, why would Bill Murray sue over that? I don't understand that. If I had been in the movie and done the part where he goes, uh-oh, like, why does he think he owns that or something? I don't know. That's crazy to me. I just rewatched actually yesterday another movie with Bill Murray and Randy Quaid called Quick Change. If you've never seen that, I highly suggest it. Also has Gina Davis. I'm sorry, Gina Davis and Jason Robards. Phil Hartman's in it for a scene. Tony Shalhoub is in it. There's a couple cool names in that movie. That's a fun one. I guess it actually, I looked it up and it actually did make, at least it made its budget back. But it had a small budget. So it was like a $14 million budget. It made like $15 million. So I guess that's why it's still kind of a smaller, forgotten movie. Even though it recouped its money. People kind of forget it. But it's a fun one. It has a great score too. And it's directed by, I think Howard Franklin is a friend of his or something. Whatever, but the movie is directed by Howard Franklin and Bill Murray. See, that's another one I'd like to know. I want to know about the making of that. How did that work? Why did they have two directors? How did they share the responsibilities? Who directed what scenes? It's more fascinating stuff. Look at his hair, man. Is that called feathered? Yeah, it must be because it looks like feathers. Robert Stack. This is funny. But yeah, I didn't mind that these gophers were talking. They kind of sound the same to me as they did in the first one. So it doesn't bother me at all. But I think some people, it's another strike against Caddyshack II for most people. I don't know. I think there's there are a lot of bright colors in this. Like that shirt he's wearing looks like a polo shirt version of the suits that Jackie Mason has been wearing through this whole thing. But yeah, I guess this movie's kind of a comfort food experience for me. Does he have Twinkies? Yeah. So he had Twinkies on display in his food cart, and now he's using them as bait to kill these gophers. Okay. See, that's the brilliance of this movie. Every time I see it, I pick up something new. I actually say that a lot. I'm making fun of myself. But there are some things like that where I pick up something different, like every single time I watch it. It's a good example. Freaks and Geeks, a television show. That's one for me. Veep is another one. That's an amazing show. Every single time I watch it, there's a joke I missed, or a joke I didn't get, or a joke I didn't hear, whatever. I always pick up something new. So I guess I'm picking up something new here, too. Theory. Quaid. He always plays these kooky characters. I wonder if he's ever played like a normal. I love this when he gets behind the Bugs Bunny. That's so hilarious. And the people dressed up as golf balls. Scumbag. Ooh, Bunny Skylar's brunch. Ugh, these people are the worst. Not Kate, though. She's cool. Say it. Besides falling down the hill like she is, there's something about her hair, her clothes that are kind of, that was kind of an 80s thing, I guess, where it's a little, clothes are a little bit bigger, especially when, you know, or at least bigger in appearance. Like they have the shoulder pads and all that kind of stuff. But in that particular scene, there's something, the way she looks frail and kind of weak. Never mind the falling down. So when she pushes her to the ground, it really drives the point home. And again, it's pretty damn satisfying. Oh, it's too bad Randy Quaid has just gotten so nutty. I guess now he's going to run for governor of California against what's her name? Caitlyn Jenner. That whole thing is just Oy. I was going to say stick to the movies, but he hasn't been doing so well in the movies recently. I still need to see the sequel. The sequel to the sequel. What was it? National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation 2? Eddie's Island Adventure, something like that. Talk about brave. You make a sequel, Christmas Vacation, and then you make a sequel to the sequel. I think I own that and I've still never watched it. I bought it for like $4 or something. It's something I know I need to watch. Just to say I've seen it and I can fairly say, like, what a disaster. But I haven't gotten around to it yet. One day, I guess. Oh, wow, that's fascinating. I just realized that the 1976 film Hollywood Boulevard was directed by Joe Dante and Allan Arkush. So we know that they were collaborators. They talked about that earlier, but I did not know that they made that movie, which is interesting. What does it say here? It was made as a result of a bet between John Davison and Roger Corman to make the cheapest ever film for New World Pictures. This is accomplished by extensive use of footage from other New World films. Oh, and Paul Bartel was in that too. Okay, so now we know how Paul Bartel got into that. So he knew Allan Arkush somehow. That is interesting. For some reason, I always thought Hollywood Boulevard was one of those, grindhouse, like exploitation kind of movies from the late 70s and early 80s. Like there was like Hollywood High. So I think I mixed that up with Hollywood Boulevard, but that one has just as fascinating a story. Wow. And that had a budget of $54,000 and it made $1 million. Yeah, I can. Caddyshack II is really funny to me because I really can understand the dislike for it. Overall. But I don't understand the hate. Just look up anything online. People just destroy this movie. And that's why I wanted to do some kind of a commentary. Just to talk about it and show my love and respect for it. Because I'm such a big fan of it. Like that scene right there, even the way they look, that is definitely like later Police Academy level kind of stuff. That's another good example. You know, the first Police Academy was rated R, and then the next one was PG-13. And then from then on, it was PG, and they became kind of like Keystone Cop kind of movies because they knew that the adults that went to see the original R-rated one with the nudity and the sex and all that kind of stuff, adults don't, I don't think they, at least at the time, they really, I mean, they would go see another one, but, you know, they got better things to do than see every single Police Academy movie that come out. So they had to appeal to a bigger fan base, I guess. So they became PG and they became cheesier and more cartoonish. And yeah, by like Police Academy 6, yeah, they had humor like this, where it's like I mean, they showed Bugs Bunny earlier. Bugs Bunny would get like blown up, and all that meant is that they had like, you know, they burned his fur or whatever, and that's kind of what they did here. So I get that. It makes complete sense, actually. But it works for me. And Police Academy 6 doesn't work for me, really. I do like later Police Academy films. Part 7's terrible. I've never gotten all the way through Part 7. Mission to Moscow. That one's pretty incredible, too, because they filmed that in Russia. That was a big kind of deal that they were filming. Not just a Police Academy film, but any film in Russia. And then when they finished it, and it came out, and they barely even released it in the theater. It made like nothing. I think they did have like a bigger opening in Russia, and it did okay there. But they went there because I think the Police Academy movies had a big base of fans there. So it's like, okay, let's make the 7th one there. And it just didn't work at all. I mean, there were just a few people left in it, of course, from the Police Academy series, just a few people left. But still, I mean, they still could have made it work somehow. It was just horrible. This has been interesting doing this commentary because I've never done this before. So when I've seen other people do commentaries and they kind of go off subject quite a lot. And I understand that now just from doing it. It's like you want to stay focused on the movie itself, but it can be kind of hard to do that. So now I get it, but I hope this was somewhat entertaining or interesting or something. Or maybe there's some secret Caddyshack 2 fans out there who are like, thank God someone out there is sticking up for this movie and explaining why. Turn on the beatbox, baby, we're walking on a party line. Yeah, see, it doesn't, okay, it doesn't, in the credits it says Industrial Light and Magic, Marin County, California, but it doesn't say a division of Lucasfilm. Maybe it wasn't a division of Lucasfilm at that time. Or maybe it was, and they just didn't want to have their name on this. That could be understandable too. But like, I want to look at all these people in the credits. I want to hear from the Gopher set coordinator, Mark Miller, rotoscope, optical lineup, optical camera operators, assistant visual effects editors. Bang, 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 bang. Todd Young. Oh, that's your Brian McNamara. See, Marsha Warfield's character, you don't even know Rayette Tyler. Didn't know that was her name, but we know Chevy Chase's name is Ty Webb. That's just weird, man. I don't get it. Turn every night into a Saturday night. It's all... Yeah, I know this song. This is a damn good song. This is Earth, Wind, and Fire, I think. One of their later, more 80s things. I think it's Earth, Wind, and Fire. Well, we're about to find out. So Nobody's Fool, Kenny Loggins. I like that song. I think it's good. I don't think it's good as I'm All Right. I Run Right Back. I run and I run and I run and I run right back. Heart of Glass. There we go. Tamara Champlin. Money, That's What I Want by Cheap Trick. Jesus. I think that's a cover, right? Power of Persuasion by the Pointer Sisters. Go For Yours by Lisa and Cult Jam with Full Force. That was the song that I thought was Jack Fresh. And that's why, because Jack Fresh is by Full Force. Okay, One Way Out. I don't remember what that one is. Yeah, Turn on the Beatbox, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah, man, I like the soundtrack. I like the song. It's good. Does this say? I don't think this has a filmed on location credit in here. Lenses and Panaflex Camera by Panavision. Yeah, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Well, anyway, again, I hope... I wonder if anyone's going to watch this or listen to this. Maybe not watch it, but... because it's just me. That's all you're seeing. But if anyone out there ended up listening to this and you are a fan of Caddyshack 2, I would love to hear from you. I don't really want to hear from the people who hate it, honestly, because we hear from you all the time, and it's kind of getting boring at this point. 30 years, 25 years later, whatever it's been. But yeah, if you are a fan of the movie, definitely add a comment. I would like to hear why you like it, what you like about it, and all that. And yeah, this is kind of fun doing it for the first time. I don't know if I'll do it again. We'll see. We'll find out, right? If we do it, maybe it'll be another one of these kind of like, I love this movie and I'm going to explain why, because everyone else hates it. Maybe that's kind of what I'll do a series of. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. And yeah, check out my podcast. I do it sometimes. It's mostly a music thing. tdgrh.co. You can find all that information there. All right, man. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.